It was 2018, and I was at the Lisboa, the first edition of the first ever RPG convention in Portugal. At lunchtime, the organization held a debate in the bar area, as people were eating. I don't even remember the theme of the discussion because it quickly went sideways when I said something that ignited the rage of the whole audience. What did I say? What was so horrible that turned a whole discussion against me? I said that I thought D&D wasn't the best game to tell stories. And as an example, I shared how my campaign had the most anticlimactic ending after a bad die roll killed one of the characters in the Underdark, who unfortunately was the glue who held the party together. One of the guys at the discussion went caving as a hobby. He knew all about the dangers of exploring the underground in the real world, and that's without the monsters. So he was quick to point out that I absolutely couldn't send a level 3 party into the Underdark, which was supposed to be a deadly environment. It wasn't the bad die roll's fault that the character died, it was mine. I shouldn't have sent them there in the first place. I was a bad DM and should have known better. To me, that was nonsense. Yes, the Underdark is supposed to be a dangerous and intimidating place, but that doesn't mean that we can throw low-level characters into it without ruining the fantasy. And I go one step further. This is valid for the Underdark, the Plane of Fire, Avernus, even the Abyss. You can play with low-level characters anywhere you want, no matter how dangerous it is according to the lore. All you must do is include a safe haven zone and follow two simple guidelines: a radial exploration model and the principle of danger foresight. Luckily for us, there's a video game that shows us masterfully how this works. Subnautica is one of my favorite games of all time. And just so you see how beautiful it is, I will leave playthrough footage of the game all throughout the video. For those who don't know it, it's a game about underwater survival in an alien planet. When the game begins, your emergency pod lands on a submerged volcanic crater after your spaceship is blasted out of the sky. You have little supplies, no help, and you must gather food and resources from this alien underwater world to survive, while also trying to locate and rescue other potential survivors. Spoiler alert, you never find any. And when you realize that your only chance is finding a way to escape this planet on your own, you're encouraged to explore farther and deeper, where the technological remnants of a precursor race can be found, but where the big fish also lurk. Because in the depths, danger has many forms: lack of oxygen, disorientation, starvation, dehydration, but none is as feared as the Leviathans, colossal life forms that you cannot defeat, only run, hide, and pray they didn't see you. If you didn't guess it by now, I'm making an analogy between the alien ocean in Subnautica and the Underdark, or whatever you want to locate your campaign in. Both are scary, hostile environments where survival is extremely challenging. How does Subnautica do it so well then? And how can we replicate it in D&D? In Subnautica, you start in the center of the map, in the safe shallows biome, where the food is abundant, the most vital resources are present, and hostile life forms are few. This is important. If you plan to send your players to a dangerous biome, include a safe haven zone, where they can get used to the environment, retreat and regroup, maybe even build a base, and learn the basics on how to survive in that place. This is especially true if they are low level or in any other kind of precarious situation. They won't be there forever. In Subnautica, for example, you are motivated to explore outwards in search of other survivors, uncommon resources, or pieces of tech that allow you to explore even farther. Having a safe haven they can retreat to, though, stops the tendency of survival scenarios to enter downward spirals when one single thing goes south. It also provides a useful testing/tutorial area and much needed relaxation and relief opportunities in such a tense scenario. And if you believe hostile environments shouldn't allow such moments, I must disagree. From both a storytelling and a player experience perspective, such games are the ones which need relief and even humor the most. The key to a safe haven zone is that there is nothing you should be able to do there. All the important stuff, the plot, the important resources, the quests, the goals, they must all reside beyond the safety of that haven. That's what encourages the players to venture out, and this is where Subnautica can teach us another lesson. Around the safe shallows, there are several biomes which become more dangerous the further away you move and the deeper you go. Obviously, the key to completing the game lies at one of the farthest and deeper biomes. The map on my left doesn't account for depth, but just to give you a visual cue, this is how a difficulty map would look like, with the green areas being the safest and the red ones the deadliest. Notice how the map is structured. To get to the final area, which is this X right here, you need to cross several biomes that slowly rise in difficulty. This kind of structure not only encourages the players to explore beyond the safe haven, but also presents them with rising levels of difficulty as they move radially, hence why I call it radial exploration model. This ensures that unless you deviate a lot from the predicted path, you will face new difficulty levels in order instead of unexpectedly facing deadly danger when you weren't prepared. It's the difference between being inside a warm bath that slowly goes cold as opposed to jumping into a freezing cold bath in one go. This technique is one of the reasons I couldn't accept when someone told me I couldn't send level 3 characters to the Underdark. Even the most hostile planes in D&D have low CR monsters. If you have a safe haven for your players to return to and present them with rising levels of difficulty, you give them the opportunity to train and level up and eventually be able to tackle more and more dangerous foes and the full force of that place. It is basically a hero's journey story spiced up with survival flavors. And note that this advice doesn't apply exclusively to designing adventures in hostile places. It is also a helpful world-building tool, one which can be used to great effect when fleshing out your starting location, for example, as we've discussed in this video up here. If you have your starting village and you also determine who the local big bad guy is, you can design several radiuses which increase in difficulty as you move away from the starting location to assure that when your players get to the bad guy, regardless of the path they took, they will have amassed enough experience to have a chance against it. This allows you to give them much more leeway to avoid railroading and convey a more immersive world, while still trusting that they will have to face the proper challenges to get to the big bad guy regardless of the route they take. Some of these concepts deserve a specific video for developing them more. I will tag them up here if I ever get to make them, but even conceptually, you can see how this technique encourages you to move away from linear design. Because if there's content surrounding the characters in every direction, then whatever direction they choose to follow is a valid option. And in terms of game balance, no matter the direction they choose, they will still have to cross the same radiuses, so the leveling will also still be appropriate. Don't forget that the path your players choose doesn't need to be a straight line either. They may go back and forth and return to weaker zones they already cleared. That is also fine. It allows them to measure how much they've grown when they can easily defeat enemies which gave them a hard time in the beginning. In Subnautica, the route I made through the game was roughly this. And whenever I return to an area that creeped the hell out of me before, and I realize it isn't as dangerous anymore, there's a sense of accomplishment. It is another testament that the radial exploration model allows you to build a realistic world or a region map with that open world feel and all these different difficulty levels that constantly challenge your players, but without needing cheap mechanics such as auto-leveling. Open worlds have a problem though. You may inadvertently come face to face with an enemy way out of your league if you wander into the wrong places. This is fine in a video game like Breath of the Wild or The Witcher because you can just respawn and have another go. In D&D, however, you usually don't restart the game after a TPK, and if the campaign ends too soon or in an anticlimactic way, it can leave the players unsatisfied, angry even. I developed this idea a bit more in my video about how D&D is not the best game for telling stories. If you're from the future, when that video is already out, you can find it in the eye up here. Subnautica, however, is a survival game. Especially for guys like me who play in hardcore mode, where when you die the first time it's game over and your save file is automatically deleted, you really don't want to be caught unprepared, much like in D&D. When this is a factor, the game needs to give you clues so you can anticipate the level of danger ahead. And in this regard, Subnautica excels once again. You can always anticipate the level of danger you can expect based on 3 subtle factors: how far away you are from the center of the map, how deep you are, and what is the soundtrack playing. One of the things that I love the most about this game is its soundtrack. Not only it is good, but it's also extremely immersive and carefully places you in the right state of mind for each area. When you're in the safe shallows, for example, the music sounds like this. But when you're in the blood kelps, it sounds like this. And when you get to the crater's edge, the most dangerous zone in the map, it is absolutely silent. The lengths to which this game goes to manipulate your feelings and place you in their most immersive state of mind is just delightful. And if the music is not indicator enough for you, you always know you're in trouble when you hear this. Ugh. Each predator in the game possesses a unique cry, which you can use to tell what's around. Leviathan cries in particular carry for long distances, so usually you get a warning sign when you enter one's territory. This is what I call the principle of danger foresight, and it is exactly what you should do in D&D as well. For the eventuality that your players wander into places you know are too much for them, carefully plant several warning signs. 3 is usually a good number. For example, let's say they're level 3 in the Underdark, and they're nearing on a Mind Flayer colony. They should be fighting Drow at their level. What are they thinking delving these deep? What can we do to let them know this is a bad route to take without railroading them? As they're going down a tunnel, they notice the walls become smooth, exhibiting circular, alien-like patterns, as if you just wandered into a corridor sculpted by an advanced civilization, much more advanced than the Drow for sure. Warning sign number 1. Are they still going? A few minutes later, they spot a herd of walking brains, intellect devourers. They seem confused like pets that lost their way, but their home must not be far. Warning sign number 2. Are they still going? A few yards ahead, they spot a gigantic corpse in the floor. A Fomorian, just like the one who almost killed them all 2 sessions ago. But this one is completely ravaged. His skull has a bloody hole in it and the brain is missing. There are no vestiges of its enemy. Whoever did this didn't even bleed. Bear in mind that if they still decide to go ahead, you should let them. They had several warnings, so from that point onwards, it wasn't an accident, it was a choice, and you should never take that away from the players. The goal here is to simply convey when they are walking into dangerous territory so they can always make an informed decision. In other words, to avoid unwanted accidents. So, Subnautica teaches us that it is possible to host games in the most hostile environments as long as you design a survival safe haven, a region using a radial exploration model with rising levels of difficulty, and enough clues to telegraph the level of danger in any particular zone. It can actually teach us much more. This won't be the last time you heard me talking about Subnautica, but for the sake of brevity, I will wrap up this video here. If I ever publish another video on the matter, I will link it here in the eye so you can watch them back to back. I just love the game. I might even stream it one of these days. Please let me know in the comments down below in the Underdark if that's something you'd like to see. For more DM inspiration, please check out the playlist on my left. For my artistic shenanigans, follow me on social media. Thank you for watching. I'm the first Arcadian, and I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, well, there's always the view.